Hi, everybody, and welcome to CELPIP Live. I'm your special guest host, Neil. I'm filling in for Ashwati while she's on vacation. But today we're going to go over a little bit of Gen Z slang in our trivia game. And to start with, we have even more trivia. So let's take a look at today's trivia question, which is the word of the year in 2023 from the Merriam-Webster dictionary was authentic. What does authentic mean? So if you want to take a guess at today's trivia question, or if you want to join along with any of the other trivia questions that we ask, feel free to put your answers in the chat and we'll feature you on screen. Okay, without any further ado, let's start the show. Okay, so as I said, today we're doing a fun time trivia episode. And we've got our two special guests joining us today, representatives respectively of Gen Z and Gen X. We've got Brandi and Ayusha. Welcome, everybody.
Hello, it's very nice to be here to do a fun trivia episode using vocabulary. As an English teacher, I love words, so I'm very curious, Neil, to see what you're throwing our way today with the Generation Z. Thanks to be here.
Absolutely. So Brandi and Ayusha, you guys are our guests today, and respectively, you are from Gen X and Gen Z. So if you want to give a little bit of background on just what that means.
Absolutely. If it's okay, I'll go first because Generation X came before Generation Z, and in fact, before the Millennials. So for our viewers watching, all three of us on screen here are from a different generation. So Generation X, they say on average, we're born between the early 1960s. A lot of people say about 65, right up till about 1980 or 1981. So I myself, I'm right in the middle there. I was born in the mid 1970s. I'll not reveal the specific year, just to keep you guessing. But because we grew up in an era that happened after the conclusion of World War II, there were a lot of societal changes. So my generation was one of the first generations in North America anyway, where two parents in the household often went to work. So oftentimes then, kids at school, when we were young, we would come home and we might be at home for a couple of hours on our own before our parents even came home from work. So as a result, they say that Generation X individuals grew up with a greater sense of independence and self-reliance because they really did have to fend for themselves to a degree, which is very different from the millennial generation that happened next. That's one defining characteristic as well. And one more before I pass it over to Ayusha would be that, again, in the Generation X era, education was becoming more important. So there is a greater percentage of people growing up in that time frame that actually had to get a college or university degree to secure a decent job moving forward, which was very different from our parents and our grandparents' generation earlier, where you didn't really need to go beyond high school. And not even all of my aunts, uncles, or grandparents even finished high school for that matter. Some of them would have dropped out early. So more education, more self-reliance, and music hit the scene. So I grew up in the MTV or the music television era as well. So a lot of the slang terms that were common in the time I was growing up anyway came from music videos and popular culture. And I'm a music fan. I love my music, so it suits me to a T. Anyway, Ayusha, you are much younger than me, the Generation Z era. What defines your characteristics?
Yeah, I don't know if I specifically remember which years Gen Z falls in, but I would say like mid 90s, late 90s to 2010s, I think. My brother is Gen Z and he is 8 years younger than me. So yeah, there's definitely a good range. A few characteristics of Gen Z, I would say, are they definitely value individual expression and they're very individualistic. They like to be authentic. And I assume that's really easy to do with social media and just kind of being digital natives who grew up with electronics and devices. They're very entrepreneurial and also independent. I feel like those two are definitely a result of the times that we live in, where you kind of have to vouch for yourself and be competitive to be able to make it. I'd also say that I read somewhere that they're also called identity nomads. Which I thought was an interesting way of saying that they just like to shape their identity through experimentation and just different ways of being themselves rather than sticking to stereotypes. I would say, adding to a few things that you said, Brandi, they're definitely more socially responsible and less likely to break certain rules regarding safety. And that's probably because of their Gen X parents and how they kind of protected them from a lot of external factors. I don't know if there's anything else. I think I also read that they're more likely to complete school and graduation and college and pursue higher education. So yeah, those are a few things.
Different
All
time,
right.
right?
Well, I fall right in between you guys. So I'm a millennial, and I believe that starts in the early 80s, and I think we cut out, in the mid 90s. So I fall right in the middle there. And I think the defining hallmark of our generation is that we were the first generation to really embrace the internet. So we were coming of age right as the internet was becoming really popular in the early 90s. So that really shaped our our youth and how we use the internet today. So I think that's a big piece of development for us. And I think that other than that, we had a very high emphasis placed on post-secondary education. So going to university and college. So I know a lot of my peers from high school, went on to graduate from university as well. And I think that really shaped our outlook on the future and how we kind of interact with our older and younger generations. But without any further ado, do you guys want to jump into some trivia?
Yes, I'm very curious to see how language has evolved over the decades.
Absolutely. So let me pull up our quiz and we can jump right in. So we've got this Gen Z young person on the screen. Okay.
This is Ayusha's generation. All right.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Okay. Here's our first term. It's glow up. So, Brandi, do you want to take a stab?
Glow up. Okay, this is not a term that I have heard of or have used in my own day-to-day, but on Netflix, I know that there's a series. I've not seen it, but it has something to do with glow up. I thought it had to do with makeup, if I'm honest, just based on the picture I saw advertised. So would glow up just mean you're making yourself look attractive? You're trying to accentuate your features with makeup or hair or clothing? Would that be a good guess, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're getting pretty close. So the definition I had was a makeover or transition from bad to good.
Oh,
And we've
right.
got someone in the chat confirming that as well. Getting better.
Thank you, Jolie. Thank you for helping us out. Again, I wouldn't have known that except for the picture I saw on a Netflix, the thumbnail advertisements.
No.
There's some sort of, I don't know the exact title, but it might even be called Glow Up, but I've seen it advertised. That's the only reason I know. Ayusha, do you use this term? Is it something you would use?
I'm definitely aware of it, and I think it's a really cool way to conceptualize the idea of like growing up. I think it's a play on the words growing up, and transitioning from like some sort of like awkward phase to a more confident phase. And I've also seen it in the context of people working on themselves and doing lots of self-care to become better versions of themselves physically and mentally. Yeah.
Interesting. So it's not just the physical appearance. It could also be just who you are as a person, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Good to know. I
Cool.
like that too. Yeah.
Okay. Up next, we've got Stan. So not someone's name, but Brandi, have you ever heard of this one before?
Not terribly. So I have to say, I mean, there are different names that are going around and they have different meanings attached to them. I have honestly heard Stan, but I have no idea what it means. I'm going to have to rely on our viewers. If anybody here understands.
Yeah, if anyone in the chat wants to jump in.
Yeah, help me out here.
Yeah, I picked Stan because 2023, we saw a lot of Taylor Swift stans. So maybe that gives you an idea of what that term would mean if I say it like that. Taylor Swift stans.
Taylor, like a fan? Oh, a Swiftie fan? Does it have to do specifically with Taylor Swift? Like, would
Not
it be
with Taylor Swift. It could be any artist or actor, or you would be a stan of something. Maybe that's a better way to put it.
A major fan then? Like somebody who's just so, I'm looking at the chat comments coming in. Kumar thinks it means zealous. Could it be that connotation? Yeah, where you're just so obsessive or so enthralled or zealous or excited about a celebrity, I guess, that you're considered a stan?
Yeah, Yeah, so it's a combination of stalker and fan.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, so to describe a devoted follower, I didn't know that either. I kind of assumed it was like standard or something like that, and it was a shortened form, but I was way off.
Stalker and fan. I can see, and again, as a word person, I like to see where words come from and why they mean what they mean. So yeah. So actually, honestly, Kumar, if I hadn't just seen your idea about zealous, I probably wouldn't have known or at least guessed. So thank you for helping us out. And I like that Deb has also got the right word there, enthusiasm. Extra enthusiasm.
Ayusha, do you stan anybody?
It's a good question. I don't know. Musicians, I can't say I really am a part of fandoms or like groups of fans anymore. It's not as much as I used to be. I used to be a massive Potterhead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. Let's go on to our next one. So next up, we've got W. So this is a little vague, I realize. This is maybe more like texting slang. So Brandi, do you have any ideas what W might mean?
Well, when I see W, again, remember I'm a Generation X, so I grew up on MTV and television. So I know there's a channel called W. It's the Women's Television Network. And that is the only meaning that I attach to this word. Or when I'm teaching my CELPIP episodes and helping people prepare for their tests, we always talk about the 5 W's, which is the who, what, where, when, why. But I'm guessing neither of those have anything to do with this text slang. So I'm at a loss.
Ayusha, do you want to take a stab?
Sure. I like how minimalistic this one is. Yeah, I think Kumar, you're pretty much spot on. It's like a win situation, like W for win, and then there's a counterpart of L. So it's like an L situation or massive L if someone's, really failed at something. Yeah, abbreviation of win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would L mean lose? Like
yes.
Lose?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And W means
so if you're taking an L, that means you're taking a loss. And if you're celebrating your W, you're celebrating a win.
I'm going to use that. I'm going to text all of you after the show and start putting these into my text and see if I can get it right. W for win. It's easy to remember.
Nice. All right, yeah. So good work, everybody.
Nice
Let's go on to our next. So we've got salty.
All right, I have heard this word, but I'm not 100% certain how you would use that in a sentence. If something is salty, does it mean it's been like jazzed up, which is it's an old expression, Gen X. Salty is something that you've like added, you've changed it up to make it a bit controversial to grab people's attention. Is that kind of?
Not quite. I think it would be better to describe it as someone's state of being. I think that's fair, right, Ayusha?
Mm-hmm.
So a person is salty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kumar is really crushing it. So we've got Kumar saying resentful.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's pretty close. So the definition I had was someone who's jealous or envious. You'd say they're salty. So they're salty about a situation, something like that.
Very jealous. Very. So salty has a negative. I would have figured it was attached to some sort of like a negative idea because when you add too much salt to food, it makes it, you wouldn't want to eat it, right? So that's kind of, again, where my mind is trying to make meaning out of these. Irritated, Deb is saying. So I guess
irritated, yeah.
That negative vibe. A person is salty. Can it only be a person? You can't call anything else salty. It has to be a person?
I think it would be best applied to a person. Yeah, I think that makes the most sense.
Okay. I'm going to remember that.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It is a good one.
Okay. So next up, we've got finna. Okay. This one I had no idea. Brandi, this might be out of left field. But
it's probably a couple of words that have been shortened together, right? Like
correct. It's a
fin,
contraction of sorts.
Yeah, the first thing I would say is finish. Like fin just reminds me of finish. Am I on the right track? Fin? No?
Not quite.
Fin could be finger, but that doesn't make sense. Finish, fin, fan, so fun. Not sure.
Ayusha, do you ever use this in your everyday?
Not really, but I do know what it means.
All right, lay it on us.
I think it's just a version of going to, like gonna, I think.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, Brandi, you were on the right track with a contraction. So it's kind of like fixing to, going to, that kind of thing.
But why the N? Why fix? Wouldn't you just say fixa? That's what I would do if I was trying to make a short word.
I mean, who knows how these things get created?
Yeah, it's
Kumar
interesting.
again.
Kumar, wait, you need to be on my team here. Yes.
Yeah, you're MVP today, Kumar. All right, next one, we've got cat. So this one's pretty popular. I have heard this in conversation with my younger cohorts, but Brandi, if you want to take a guess.
Okay, so cat from a literal standpoint, it's like a hat, and I'm sure it has nothing to do with that from a slang perspective. So cap would also mean to put like a lid on something, like to cap a salary someone's making, or to cap, like shut off an idea, just end it right there, would be my guess.
A little bit, I think. So Ayusha, I'm sure you're familiar with this one, but cap is to lie. So no cap meaning no lies. So you're on the right track in thinking that it means to like put an end to something. You would say no cap means, you know, I'm being serious. But yeah.
Okay.
Jolie got it. Perfect.
So when somebody is talking, or if I'm saying, like telling somebody something important, and then I say no cap, it just means like I'm really dead serious about this. Like I'm not lying. I'm not making this up. That's what that means. No cap. So you would probably use the no in there. Okay, I'm going to do that this week. I'm going to find a way to share an idea. I want to see if they know what I mean. Because again, a lot of my friends are my age or older, right? So they might not know. I'll teach them.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So next up, we've got snack. So you would, again, this is in the context of a person and not of a food. That's the hint I'll give you. So if you said someone was a snack, what do you think you would be saying about them?
They're probably like pretty cute and adorable. That's how I would read that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Someone who's a snack is an attractive person.
All right. Yeah. That one I have heard. I haven't used it, but yeah, I would get that. If somebody said, someone called me a snack, oh, I'd know what they meant. I don't know how I'd feel about it, but I know what they meant.
They just want to eat you up, Brandi. It's good. Okay. That one was pretty easy. Let's go on to our next one, which is tea. So this one kind of has like a broader use, and it's really popular. So I'm not sure what the best context clue to give you is for this, but what would you guess if you said if you heard someone talking about the tea? What would you think that meant?
I just heard this on a TV show the other night. So I don't know if the rest of you watched Survivor. Again, that's probably my generation watching. That show's been around since the year 2000. But it was an Indian contestant, a man from India, and he was talking to his castaways on the island, and he was giving them all the gossip. And right after he finished talking about the story, he said to them, "So that's the tea." And I had never heard that expression before, but because he had just been talking about gossip, I understood it to mean like, I'm telling you all the good, juicy tidbits, all the gossip there. Yeah, here you go. Is that right? That's what that means?
Yeah.
Sort of gossip or, okay.
Yeah, you got it. So spilling the tea, sharing outrageous news, gossip, you got it.
Yeah, and it's funny that literally just came up within the last week, and that was the first time I've ever heard it. So this question for me is very timely.
Exactly. If you keep your ears open, you'll hear all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
Ayusha, do you ever spill the tea to your friends? Is that a super old person thing?
Absolutely. And as someone who loves tea, hearing that or reading that always makes me crave tea, which is a good thing.
Nice.
Spill the tea. And I always wonder how somebody decides that it's going to be tea. Like it's not spill the coffee, spill the whatever, right? It has to be tea. Like I don't know where these expressions come from.
I think Kumar actually had a really good notion that gossip over tea. It's like something you would do with your friends, you know, in that kind of a setting. I think that's awesome.
All right, interesting.
All right.
I got one. I'd like to think I got that all by myself.
You did. Yes, you did. All right. So next we've got bop. So Brandi, you're in the musical generation. I think you might have a good idea of what this is.
Yeah, just to bop means to kind of like my generation would say to rock out. Is that kind of the same connotation there? Like you're just so into the music, you're just into it, you're dancing, you're doing whatever your body wants to do.
So you're absolutely on the right track. Bop in this context, and what I was reading when I was doing my research was that bop is a song or album is particularly good. So you really feel it.
Yeah. There was a song put out in, I think it was the 90s, the early 90s. The song is called Bop. I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about. It was by the Hanson brothers. I think there were three of them, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and it was just on the news the other day because one of the brothers just turned, is he 30 or 40 now? Which again made me feel super old because that song came out when I was in high school. So that's kind of also the connotation. That word bop always seems to have been connected to music and something that just gets you going, that you really enjoy. So yeah, it's a good song. Listen to it if you've not heard. Bop. That's what it's called. Letter M with bop.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's go on to our next one, which is an abbreviation. So it's an acronym, Brandi.
Yeah,
IYKYK.
Yeah.
So do you know what this one stands for?
Yes, it means if you know, you know.
Hey.
Yeah?
Yeah, got it in one.
So that would
Absolutely.
Be like,
so if you know, you know. So talking about an inside joke or a reference. My friends and I use this a lot in texting when we're talking to each other to refer to, things that have happened in the past. And, it's kind of like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge kind of thing.
Yeah. Remember when? Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Short forms for everything. That's the way of the world, right? Get to the point, make it short, make it quick. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So next up, we've got bet. So this one's totally alien to me. Brandi, you can give it a guess, obviously, and I think Ayusha, if you know, you'll know.
It's funny, like all these words, of course, if you just take it literally, like we know to bet means to gamble with money, but I'm guessing in the slang world, it's probably has nothing to do with that. Yeah, I don't even have a context or a situation. I might have to refer to Ayusha here to help us out.
I feel like my younger brother might have a better idea of this, but does it mean is it just a way of saying okay?
Yeah, you're on the right track.
Okay, bet,
So
gotcha.
yes, affirmative. So Brandi, I think the best way to think of it is even just like an even shorter form of you bet. Like if you've had someone say you bet as an affirmative to you.
Okay. I was going to ask how.
They're just cutting out one more word. So Jolie, you got it.
I bet. Is that something we say to you? I bet. Yeah. And you just bet. Means yes or
yeah, I've said that before. Absolutely.
I bet.
But now the Gen Z folks are making it even shorter.
So it goes from the Gen X to the Millennial to the Gen Z. We get shorter and shorter and shorter.
We like our brevity.
Yes. Okay. Next up, we've got sending me. So this is really, I hear this from time to time, I will admit. But Brandi, do you want to take a guess?
I think it means something like something has pushed your buttons or whatever's happened or whatever you're reading about is made you react so emotionally. Like it's just whether you're angry or frustrated or something, it's sending me. Like I would just say it that way. Like sending me over the edge is how I imagine it in my mind.
What do you think, Ayusha? Do you think she's on the right track?
I think so. It's just a way of saying that you're really impacted by something, right? Like the song is sending me with the lyrics or something like that.
So what I had specifically was something particularly funny, but I think people use it not just for funny, but also for any emotional impact. A strong reaction, basically.
Sending me. Okay. Yeah. Hey, are emojis used in the Gen Z text world, Ayusha? Like instead of saying sending me, could you just put a crazy face if you were texting someone for the same reaction? Is that common?
Potentially. I feel like using the cap emoji for cap or no cap is very common. I see that a lot on social media.
Okay. Interesting.
Good to know. Good to know.
Good to know.
Okay. Next up, we've got sus.
Yeah. This one is a short word.
Yes. So again, going with Gen Z's predilection for shortening. Brandi, I think you might have a good idea what this is short for.
I'm pretty sure it's for suspect. Like something that you're questioning or suspicious about, right?
Exactly. Short for suspicious.
Yeah.
So if something is sus, it's fishy, it's questionable, it's sketchy, all those things.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, we've got two more. So our second to last word for Gen Z slang today is snatched. So I was telling Ayusha and Brandi earlier that I've been watching a lot of RuPaul's Drag Race, and this is particularly popular on the Drag Race. So Brandi, if you want to take a guess.
Something that's snatched. Maybe something that's stolen as in an idea. Like somebody had such a great idea that you decided to copy them and make it your own. I'm just thinking of the RuPaul Drag Race, how that would fit together.
A little bit. So I'll throw up the definition here. We can walk ourselves through it a little bit. So someone who looks good, especially in their outfit. So you'd say someone who's looking snatched. So I don't know what the root of it is, but used a lot to describe someone who's really kind of, keyed in on their aesthetic and is really doing good work with their outfit.
Oh. When I remember my mom using a word with a similar meaning, but the word was snazzy. That's way back from the 80s. Yeah. So I don't know if that has anything to do with the evolution here. So snazzy, I would understand. And it's an old word that I don't even use myself, but snatched. Yeah, I hadn't heard that. I have to admit, I've never heard snatched. Like, again, I think it's snatched as somebody stole my purse, right? Like they snatched it out from under me. That's the literal meaning. But as far as looking good in your outfit, I wouldn't have guessed that, actually. Oh, but Coy's telling us it means amazingly good. So
yeah,
you all know things I don't.
Yeah. Do you ever say something is snatched? Have you been snatched?
No, but I've definitely seen it a lot.
Fair enough. Okay, on to our final word for the Gen Z slang. We've got extra. So this one I've heard quite a bit. Brandi, I think you might have a little bit of context for this one. If you say something is extra or a person is extra, what would you guess?
I would it's a positive connection with meaning. So somebody who goes above and beyond or just spectacular, like something that stands out from the crowd in a good way.
So I think that most of the time, I think you're on the right track, but you need to take the contra positive of what you're saying. So most of the time it's someone who's escalating situations with their flamboyance, but it's mostly used as a negative. So if someone is extra, they're being extra annoying or, extra uppity or something more along those lines, I think.
Like it's too much. That's an expression I would use. Too much. Like I don't even want to go around it. It's annoying me. Okay, I get it now. Yeah. Flamboyance. The flamboyance, for people that maybe don't know that word, is extravagant in a way. It's kind of like that. It with that negative connotation. Like it's so over the top that it's just hard to be around.
Yeah. Ayusha, do you ever feel like your parents are being extra when they're asking you to do something or something like that?
Definitely. I also have heard extra being used in the context that Brandi mentioned, which is just be really, be out there and go the extra mile, and superfluous potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, superfluous. That's a good word for it as well. Okay. So now we're going to turn the tables a little bit on you, Ayusha, and have you guess some Gen X slang.
Fun.
All right. So we've got 5 bits of Gen X slang for you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with our first one, headbanger. Have you heard this before?
I think so. Is this just the Gen X version of saying bop? Like it's a headbanger for a song?
You could use it in that context, but it's more about a person. So Brandi.
Oh.
Yeah. So again, by the way, Jen, I helped to pick these words out because, again, as a Gen X person and as someone who loves music, a lot of slang out of the 70s, 80s came from music. So in the 1970s, again, I was born mid-70s, the band Led Zeppelin became very famous. And in their first US tour, headbanging became a thing, and it sort of stuck through the metal fans. So headbangers, if you can imagine the head, a lot of people that liked heavier music, like the music of Led Zeppelin and other rock artists, they tend to have long hair. And so did the musicians on stage tended to have long hair. So if you're head banging, and I won't do this on camera, but it's like when you're listening to the music and to the beat of the music, you're literally like banging your head like so, but you're whipping your hair all over the place. So if you ever go back and look at some old music videos or such online, and you see all those the really heavy rock music type, and they're all banging like so. So the head banger is the person that's whipping their hair back and forth. It started with just the people watching the concerts, but it then became something that the performers did on stage. Ozzy Osbourne is another, and I love this kind of music. This is my generation. I love heavy music like this. So Ozzy Osbourne, who was the frontman of Black Sabbath before he went on his solo career, so was kind of one of the first notable real headbangers. And if you watch his performances on stage, they're crazy. Like he's just, again, he's extra over the top. So that's where headbanging came from all that heavier music. It started in the 70s, and it's come from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Okay. So our next term for Gen X slang, we have gnarly. So a silent G, gnarly. Have you ever heard this used before, Ayusha?
Yes, I think so. And in my mind, I'm picturing like weeds. Like it's just a lot to deal with. It's gnarly. It's a gnarly test,
Yeah,
or
that's
it's like
that's
or
definitely how we would use it today. But maybe let's take a look and see how it started out.
Yeah, so gnarly is a word that started again in the 70s, and it was always and still is strongly associated with surf culture, particularly down the west coast of the States. Think California. So surf culture and skateboarding as well, skate culture. So the word gnarly was first actually used to describe really big waves that surfers were trying to take. If the wave was gnarly, it was twisting and turning and probably going to dunk them in off of their surfboards. And then into the 80s or so, for some reason, with the teenagers growing up in that era, myself one of them, it sort of took on its own meaning. And it can mean something that's really disgusting or offensive. Like, again, I've got a little sentence here. You can see the comic has a very gnarly sense of humor, like really gross stuff I don't want to hear. Or it could be the opposite. It could be something so excellent. Like, oh, I was listening to the guitar riffs from that musician. They were so gnarly. So again, it's got that sort of almost like hippie culture, right? But sort of that surfer connotation. So it's not used so much, but if you've ever seen the movie Finding Nemo, the Disney Pixar cartoon, there's a scene with the turtles and they're swimming around with Nemo and Dory. And even the way that turtle's talking with the whoa,
super weird.
and so that movie actually took this word gnarly from the 70s and 80s and introduced it to the Millennials, which is the newest generation, and maybe that. It's interesting to see the evolution of these words and where they almost die, nobody uses them, and then afresh they come in a popular movie or something. So that's what gnarly means. I don't use this word, I never have, but they understand it perfectly.
Yeah, I still hear it definitely from time to time.
Yeah.
All right, so our next word in our Gen X slang portion is you rock. So a phrase, you rock. I think we've probably all heard this one before, but Ayusha, if you want to take a guess.
Yeah, I think the most obvious meaning is like you're awesome, you rock, you're amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's it. Yeah, so you can rock, like you the person, or if you rock at something, like you rock at singing or something, you rock at mathematics, whatever it is, it means you're really, really good at it. And again, it comes from music. So if you can think back to sort of 1950s when rock and roll really hit the scene, you think of artists like Elvis Presley and so on, and the whole idea of rock music was attached to this notion of loving life and being full of life and energy and having a slight rebellious edge, which was cool. And by the 1960s is when this word really sort of solidified that meaning of being joyful in life. So anything that rocks just means you're awesome, as Kumar has just said. Yeah, I use this expression even still to this day. So it's fairly common, I would say. I don't know if like Gen Z would use it, but I'm sure a lot of people would understand the meaning. If someone tells you you rock, it's a good compliment.
Absolutely. Okay. So our next one, we've got hella. So this one I have heard a bit, but Ayusha, I don't know if you're familiar with this, hella.
Yeah, I feel like this has also made its way into Gen Z slang. It's just like very like a way of saying it's very cool. It's hella cool. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my favorite slang words are words that make sense like this. Like instead of saying hellava, we just taken that longer version and shortened it to hella. So yeah,
everyone loves to shorten. Yeah, exactly.
It's
interesting.
Yeah, that's what it means.
Perfect. All right, and now for our final bit of slang, diss. So I've definitely heard this a lot, especially in the context of hip hop music. But Ayusha, if you want to take a guess, I think you probably have heard it at some point.
Yeah, the closest thing I can think of is diss tracks, which is just music that you're making to like diss someone or make fun of someone or call them out about something.
Exactly.
My close. Okay.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Disrespect. Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Again, it makes sense, right? Diss just is short form. Sometimes it's spelled with just one S, like D-I-S. Sometimes it has two, just so our viewers know. But instead of saying disrespect, because that takes far too long, we're going to shorten it to say diss. But yeah, Neil, you're right. It comes from hip hop culture. And again, I was looking into the origin of this word, and this word's been around for centuries, but it was first sort of noted in popular music in the late 1970s. So in 1979, right at the end of my generation, Gen X, it was a hip hop artist by the name of Spoonie G, who I'd never heard of, but he was very prominent in the 70s with his own hip hop. And he put together a song, it's called Spoonin' Rap. And he actually uses this word, and it sort of really clung to the hip hop culture and became very pervasive in the 80s and 90s. We've got a lot of hip hop artists like the Beastie Boys and Run DMC and so on in the 90s, and it just sort of continues that on. So yeah, it's all about the music. A lot of the words coming from my generation seem to stem back into music, again, because we grew up in the MTV era, the music television era, where we watched TV after school, waiting for parents to come home, right? So it makes sense to me.
Awesome.
That's really neat.
All right. Well, thanks both of you for joining us today. That was very insightful, and I hope that everybody watching, thank you again for playing along. But I hope this helps you out in your understanding of everyday English.
Yeah, I'm going to try to use some of those words as the week goes on here. The ones I've learned. So thank you for introducing some of them to me.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. So thanks, everybody, for joining. Just to wrap up before we go today, we asked a trivia question at the top of the show before all the other trivia questions, which was the word of the year in 2023 from the Merriam-Webster dictionary was authentic. What does authentic mean? So authentic means genuine, undisputed, or true. And I think someone joined in right at the beginning and had the answer to this one. So Bubosla, thank you very much for joining in with that. Perfect work. Okay. So that's it for today's episode of CELPIP Live. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another episode. If you follow us on our social media channels on Instagram and on YouTube and on Facebook, you can find us at CELPIP Test Official, and we'll release more information about our next episode coming soon. Thanks, guys.